So grateful to be here and very happy to discuss these incredibly important and hard to talk about topics. He has an incredible backbone and staggering moral fiber. Howie is totally committed, completely ethical, totally admirable. No pressure if you can hear this, but honestly, Howie's a hero to me.
John, you joined us before, and it was a pretty incredible kind of testimony you gave, and you just devoted your life to advocacy for child trafficking, and even 9/11 truth. Maybe you could explain to us, in the last decade, what do you think the most challenging parts of coming alive on some of these issues have been?
Probably the hardest thing, and it continues, is just realizing that pretty much everything that I was told and taught since I was in grade school is probably not true. And hello, good evening, welcome to the Traffic Report. It's 12:01 all across the Eastern time zone, and it's 9:01 where Catherine is. So,
it is indeed. Evening, John.
Welcome, Howie and Catherine.
Good evening.
I knew he was there.
I'm here.
We're all a little tired tonight. Things are moving very, very quickly, and it's kind of boggling my mind. We're doing part 2 of our Olympics special as the Winter Olympics begins, and it seems like the United States Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, the YMCA, U.S.A. Swimming, obviously U.S.A. Gymnastics are dirty, and I keep hearing Larry Nassar is the tip of the iceberg, and I truly believe that. And things are just hitting the fan, and it's very galling.
Well, we'll get to the news story, out of U.S.A. Swimming, because basically 2 days after we dig up this article from 2014 about 90 coaches being banned from U.S.A. Swimming for quote, I guess what they called sexual misconduct. Yeah, the
we call
usual.
It child rape.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But a news story has emerged literally in the last 24 hours, and we'll get to that. And with the Olympics starting, I mean, basically it comes down to that. We were talking before the show. This touches every. We know about Hollywood. We know about
Boy Scouts.
Boy
Girl
Scouts,
police
religious
explorers,
institutions,
church,
child protection services, schools. But now there's when you start poking around. And, the funny thing is, it's like the stuff it's all out there. I mean, you basically just have to go look for it. It's not going to be given to you. You're not going to see it on the 6 o'clock news. You're not going to see it on the national news.
Yeah, I tweeted that out. This is what NBC Olympics is not going to tell you.
Right. Of course.
During their coverage.
Right now. and then they probably won't even put the story out. But I mean, there was a massive, sex abuse, we would call it a scandal, in England involving youth soccer. And that's been going on for years. And, it won't make news over here, but, over in England, it's a massive story, and it involves, famous players who are now professionals. But if you understand, if you know anything about, British soccer, they find the best players, and they're brought on as, onto these youth squads, and I don't forget.
Well, and it may surprise you to know this, but my cousin actually played it was in Scotland, but he played professional soccer in Britain. Yeah, Gerald McCabe,
and he went through the youth ranks. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And I haven't spoken with him in 20 years, so I maybe want to be making a few phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely. But and this
probably saw something. If they didn't experience something, they probably saw something or heard something.
But basically, sports is like one of those things where you're not necessarily thinking about it, but it's like, wow, you have lots and lots and lots of children involved, boys and girls of all ages, being turned over to, strangers who are in a position of power. The parents have that, vicarious, living through their child, and, some of them want them to succeed at any cost, and they're not, they're looking the other way. I mean, I've seen stories of, karate instructors. I mean, it's literally anything where
everywhere. Well,
wherever there are children. Remember, we had that light bulb moment.
Where do you find the pedophiles? Where the kids are at? Yeah.
But why do you see?
Why do you rob banks? That's where the money is, I think.
Well, I want to say this real quick. Because we were talking about it before, but I want to bring it out for the show just in case people haven't read that much or listened to that much of what happened with Larry Nassar. But the reason that it broke out in the first place was because Indy Star published an article called Out of Balance in August of 2016, and it was an investigation into how U.S.A. Gymnastics policies for handling sexual abuse complaints enabled predators to abuse children long after the organization had been warned. Right. So Indy Star published that article, and it was about U.S.A. Gymnastics and their policies that stink and don't help protect children. And it caused a survivor of Larry Nassar's to contact Indy Star, and then more came out after that, and then he got fired and arrested. But that was, and
we can tweet that out again, and we John and I talked about it on the show. I think we found the article, and that's sort of what there was a little bit about Nassar at the time. We found this Indy Star article. Now,
they also did. While we're talking about the Indy Star, they did a great article on sex abuse in the Police Explorer program. So I think that's.
Oh Lord!
Kind of how Yep. They've done some amazing reporting.
But calling, we don't want to. I'm not. I don't want to call the Indy Star out of balance. Calling it an article is, it's an understatement. It was a thorough
investigative
report. Yes. And it had many, many, many layers to it. And I believe, something similar to that, John, with the Boy Scouts. That was from the LA Times, that did a investigative report on the Boy Scouts, and the parallels are are totally drawn, both sides, and resistance from the governing bodies to investigate and hide secret files, and not lawyering up and not willing to give over their files and do everything they can to work with investigators and figure out what was going on, to protect the organization. And there was always similarities between the Boy Scouts and U.S.A. Gymnastics, in that respect.
Yeah, and every one of these, every one of these, and that's what our eyes are being open to. Hopefully, this is institutional. These aren't lone wolf pedophiles, preying on a few kids here. This is being fostered by the institutions that are supposed to be the bedrock of our country. The Boy Scouts, for God's sakes, the Girl Scouts, the United States Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, the YMCA. Does that ring any bells? I'm bound to my local YMCA with that wonderful article I emailed Rachel Sturtz, I believe is her name, who was the author of Unprotected. That's in the show notes. And another swimmer, that was written how many years ago, Howie? 4 years ago.
Yeah, 2014. Almost 2000. Almost 4 years ago.
So, and now we have another swimmer coming forward, another coach, and we found out there's 100 swimming coaches that have been banned, and some of them that haven't been banned, and they are as dirty or more than U.S.A. Gymnastics. And I don't imagine, and we were talking the other day about the Winter Olympics, and it was like a joke. I said, I'm going to investigate the luge team. And Howie said something like, well, I don't think there's any, minors on the luge team, which I thought was probably correct, and then I'm surfing through the TV, and there's the Olympic coverage, and there's this little, the kid looked like 12 or 13, and guess what team he was on? He was on one of these same organizations. I don't know if it's USA Luge or USA Bobsled or whatever the hell it's called, but it's another organization, these local camps that bring these kids in when they're 12, 13 years old, maybe some even younger. And he's talking about how he's going to the winter, and it made me ill, and I made the decision right then. I'm not going to be watching any of that coverage, I'll be investigating it, but and I just can't do it, I just can't do it.
It's a, we're talking about the cover up of the governing bodies of these organizations, if it's the U.S.A. Gymnastics. I'm not ready to necessarily say that they are, it's just like a satanic, or Luciferian.
No, I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm not saying
that. But they will put, and what I believe is, my gut feeling is that they will put the organization before the welfare of the children, and instead of saying, listen, we have a problem here, let's break it down, and then, weed this stuff out, and, just basically go forward, because it might, cost, reputation and money and, whatever the case may be. And, that's,
you said it right there, that money, that's,
yeah. And it's like we don't want to tarnish our image of whatever, but like if we're comparing, just thought popped into my head, if we're comparing, like swimming seems to be okay, it's that muscle memory type thing, it's like, listen, you can stick a swimmer in a pool, and they just basically just they can do it in their sleep. But when you think about gymnastics, the concentration, whatever goes wrong and can throw the entire thing, fall off the beam, miss the, miss a tumble or whatever, and to think that these girls, dealing with we're talking about the highest levels here, the Olympic athletes.
Yeah, well, you said this the other day, and take the sexual abuse out of it. That looks like abuse, just what they go through, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like the Curry Strug Saturday Night Live, the girls, some of them never, they prolong puberty, and some of them don't even hit it naturally, and they stunt their own growth. Like girls at 11, 12 years old with rock hard six packs, and that's not. It's not.
Aye.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and then,
and this story fell by the wayside, but they found out that not only in the West, but also in Russia and in the East, all those athletes are doping. I mean, they're all using steroids. There's a great documentary on Netflix, and there were these doctors that was what they did was, again, we got the International Olympic Committee. They know what the hell was going on, but they had this protocol where they could dope and get away with it, and it's worldwide, and that's all been hushed up, and that can take a back seat, as far as I'm concerned, to what's going on with the child rape now, but these organizations are corrupt to the core, and it's definitely, and like you said, and these are, are they doping these 14, 15-year-old kids?
I think in some instances they are. And I actually was a little surprised that they do drug kids more than what I thought. Just from, my readings and everything, I have noticed that they drug kids quite a bit.
Well, I mean,
I mean, just in general, I don't know about the sports thing. I'm just saying in general.
And what do the parents know? Larry Nassar is performing ungloved digital vaginal exams on these kids with their parents in the room, and the parents are like, "Oh, I don't. That is not supposed to do that." Well, what the hell would they know about doping?
Honestly, we can branch this conversation because into not necessarily sports, but competitive dancing, cheerleading. Beauty pageants, all this stuff, the sexualization of children. I mean, these girls are,
anywhere there's kids.
Well, but what I'm saying, it's like, why do these girls have to be, cheerleaders? Why do they have to wear, back in the 50s, they used to wear skirts, below their knees, and now it's like,
why do they look like John Benet Ramsey did?
Yeah, exactly. Those types of things. So I don't know enough about other European what it's like in Europe, Asia. I don't want to say, but the hypersexualization of children. Why do these girls, even in gymnastics, why do they have to go out there wearing, like, what does makeup have to, if I could think back right now to, like, I'm going to just Nadia Comaneci in 1976 when she was scoring perfect tens, at the Montreal Games.
Remember her coach? They just closed down his camp.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Yeah, the Romanians. But what I'm saying was she wasn't wearing makeup. She wasn't made, to make, now when these girls go out to do their gymnastics, to be athletes, they also have to wear makeup and sparkles and all this other stuff. And, it's part of the whole presentation. It's like, what does that have to do with sports? I mean, you just watch the Super Bowl, and I don't think any of the male athletes, I don't think any of the Eagles or the Patriots were wearing makeup. I mean,
Tom Brady was.
Stop. It may seem trivial, but why do we have to make these girls look a certain way, to go out and perform their sport? I don't know why. I'm not exactly sure.
It's the whole culture. Well, look. How does all this exist? It exists because the culture is bankrupt.
Yeah.
We sexualize kids. And we've gone back through this. I mean, social engineering, the Kinsey Institute. I mean, you've got major social engineering in place to devalue anything that's sacred. I think one of our shows is nothing sacred, and no, nothing is sacred in this society. Hopefully, we have turned the corner on that, and I think we have in many ways. But
you don't think
this is just an aside, but when I was watching the victim impact statements, there was a father of one of the girls, and he was a retired 30-year correctional officer. And did either of you see him?
No.
Oh,
I believe I did. Yeah,
he let Nasser have it bad. He said inmate. He kept calling him inmate, and he actually had an inmate for him. So anyway, yeah, and he kind of let him know what he could look forward to when he got to prison.
Well,
yeah. I can only hope the worst for old Larry. There's nothing bad enough for him. I don't think.
From what I understand, and speaking to someone that actually spent a pretty good deal of time in prison, he told me that pedophiles these days are actually very well protected. So it's not
right.
it's not this thing that they just release them into the general population and let the inmates have their way with them and drop the soap and all this. It's not necessarily like that.
That's true. However, Jeffrey Dahmer was in protective custody. So.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, right.
Well, Dahmer had a whole different number on his forehead, but I'm going to say this, and I know it's not going to be popular probably with anybody at all, but I don't believe in that. I don't believe that you go and rape somebody that is a rapist, because
yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because if you do that, that makes you guilty.
You become them, yeah.
Exactly. And so, no, that is not. No. And it's not good enough for us to let somebody else do it either. No, we have to be a society that believes in no rape. Like, not at all.
Yeah.
Let's just not at all. But if they are an offender, we're going to put them on my island.
Let nature deal with them.
What happens on the island, that's not my problem. What happens on the island is their problem.
That's nature. I'm totally okay with that.
Before we put them on the island, we have to understand what is going on. We need to. I mean, I would like to sit down with a Larry Nasser and say, "List, explain this to me."
Howard, I'll make you a deal. I'll make you a deal. We'll go put them on that island, and you can go out there on a boat and visit them anytime you want to interview them as long as you want to.
But who's going to explain to us? We don't understand the problem. That's the thing. We don't understand. I mean, it's so pervasive.
Okay. Well, Howard, are you gonna accept answers from somebody who spent their freaking lifetime preying on little kids, and that's what they spent their every waking hour doing? How honest do you think that they're going to be with you? See, that's where, we've got to draw the line somewhere, because they are not going to be honest with you. They do.
I'm saying before we vanquish them off, into the island, I mean, at some point.
To the island.
What's that?
I said, no, they're going to the island. Interview them on the island. You can Skype. I'll let you Skype with them.
That's it. I think we need to understand the problem, much better, because I don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, and let's take it a step at a time. Let's get the country to even recognize the problem. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
And I agree with you, that it needs to be researched. But, there is some stuff that we know already. We know that a lot of these abusers were abused as children. And I don't know what the percentage is, but it seems like to me about half of them go through that and they survive it and they never offend and they become survivors and they try to help other people that have been through it. And half of them turn into abusers. And what's really
how many of those abusers are you going to trust to
I don't trust any of them. I don't.
Well, no, wait a second. Not only give you straight up answers, but to even give 2 cents about getting to the root of the problem, to get to the answer that Howard is looking for.
I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm not saying whatever, but if we can get some insight into what is going on, it doesn't have to be Larry Nassar, it doesn't have to be any, but I think some of these guys will talk. I mean,
he ain't gonna have anything else to do. That's for sure.
Exactly,
they're going to be there for a long time.
Right, you got nothing to lose at that point. But I'm talking about the academics who are supposed to be
and
you're going to have to find somebody that has come to the end of themselves, though, and they are willing to be honest. You're
taking this to a very I'm speaking more general right now. I'm speaking more general. It's just maybe it's just a wish that we try, hopefully get to a point where we can start, instead of just putting the head.
We know, and I get what I agree with you, Howie. It has to be studied at some point. But
I'm on board for that. But it doesn't have to be done before they go to the island. That's what I'm totally.
That's fine. It'll all be worked out.
It's not going to matter.
Let's get them in custody first. Okay, that's
right. Exactly,
and that's happening.
Right,
that's happening. And I gotta say this right now. The one thing that's going on that I know there have been task forces, but I haven't seen. The Department of Homeland Security, we tweeted out there's a hotline and there's a dedicated email address for the Kukors case. Okay, so that's out there. They were right. They're serving search warrants on this guy's house, all his electronic stuff. So
explain what the Kukors case is, because we didn't
really. That's our bombshell. You found the article, Howie. So you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to refresh myself on the Outside Online article written by, and John, give me her name. I'm sorry, Rachel Sturtz.
Yeah.
Chronicling widespread abuse in U.S.A.
Protected. Great article.
And I came back tonight, and I just, my search had already been in there, U.S.A. swimming, sexual abuse, and it turns up that there was a new case in the last 24 hours, and former USA swimming coach under investigation over allegations of years-long sexual abuse with a swimmer whose name is Ariana
Kukors.
Kukors. And basically
high profile.
And she was a world champion in 2009. She's 28 years old now. And apparently her coach, Sean Hutchinson, started grooming her at 13 and it started a sexual relationship with her by the time she was 16 or 17. Now, rumors had been swirling around 2010, which would have made her around 20 years old, and the U.S.A. swimming governing body, investigated, basically found no wrongdoing, and but in the last 24 hours, the Seattle PI and Homeland Security searched Hutchinson's apartment Tuesday. No criminal charges have been filed yet, but apparently, excuse me for 1 second. The Anna Kukor story, that's one thing, but I believe they have him on child pornography. There's two separate cases, and when they started investigating him on these new allegations, this Ariana Kukors came out and said, yeah, this happened to me starting when I was 13 years old. And this guy, like I said, he was investigated in 2010. They found
but he resigned from his prestigious position. Just for what reason, nobody really knows.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I wonder how many coaches have resigned and changed their address and left no forwarding address.
Well, they don't.
Curious.
Sometimes, I've seen in lower level gymnastics where if they're accused of something, they just pop off to another gym. I mean, it's a little bit complicated in gymnastics because there's all of these gyms for aspiring young gymnasts. So if something happens in a certain town and the heat gets too hot, they just go off to another gym. And I don't even know what makes a great gymnastics coach or whatever, like who knows. But this has been a common theme. But this is something this is from New York Daily News. Much like the U.S.A, United States Olympic Committee, knew about Larry Nassar years before his arrest and did nothing, U.S.A. Swimming had noticed in 2010 that Shawn Hutchinson was involved in an inappropriate coach-athlete relationship with Ariana Kukors and took no actions to protect her or other swimmers. Hutchinson's lawyer, his last name's Allard, said in a statement, if this organization immediately reported what it knew to authorities, Hutchinson likely would have been stopped, Ariana would have been spared years of abuse, and countless other young girls would have been protected from the sexual predator. So, we're seeing again that, this stuff is out there, and these governing bodies, these organizations, they basically, just,
don't want to hear it.
They don't want to do anything.
Why would they? Because if they did hear it, they would have no children to be in their programs, and that's how it should be. Right now, they should shut down the entire United States Olympic Committee. The board of U.S.A. Gymnastics has already resigned, so we can have U.S.A. Swimming, U.S.A. Figure Skating, and every organization needs to be shit canned. Done, and we can even wonder if our kids are safe in that, because for what we know right now, there are several governing bodies, overseeing organizations that not only are allowing this to go on, but they're covering it up. Okay, so
right,
where does it have to get before we shut the whole fucking thing down? How many kids have to get raped? Another 100?
If you Google child sexual abuse in sports, you will find right at the top, or DuckDuckGo is what I use, but anyway, you will find right up at the top, attorney after attorney, because attorneys are getting called right and left. And I actually read an article written by an attorney that said that they had a huge increase in phone calls. And so,
yeah.
the paperwork's going to start flying, and when it starts costing people money, well,
Well, and what also needs to happen is law enforcement needs to do their job, because a lot of these cases are prosecutable. We're seeing some of them, even old Harvey Weinstein, the LAPD, just 3 of those cases went to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. And that's what needs to happen. Yeah, you can civilly sue these guys, and yeah, that's going to be some sort of, deterrent. But we're talking about the law. We're a nation of laws. They have been egregiously violated by not only the offenders, but the organizations that are entrusted to protect the children. They
well,
are
that's who I'm talking
complicit.
about too. As far as the civil suits are concerned, that's who they're going to go after. They'll start with them,
and more power to them. But I want those assholes in jail. It's
right.
It's not enough for the board of U.S.A. Gymnastics to be able to resign and hide behind. They're all probably lawsuit proof. I'm sure anybody in that position has an irrevocable trust, and they can be sued, and they have some liability, but they need to be jailed, and that goes
right
from everybody from Hillary Clinton through these people, but we're reaching, I would think, some sort of critical mass here where anybody that's a parent in this country and other countries around the world needs to keep their children at home. I wouldn't, if it was my kid, they wouldn't be involved in any of, they wouldn't be by themselves anywhere,
right?
With any organization, because it's just coming to the surface. And like I said, the Nasser thing, the shock waves are still going off, and now we've got swimming, and then you're going to have figure skating, and then probably the fucking luge team, and we know just from research that we've already done that it's all through the Boy Scouts, it's all through the Police Explorer programs, and the organizations that are supposed to oversee them, which they don't even respond to requests for information. I can't remember the name of that organization, but they're like the cover group for the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. They're like their legal insulator, and they're the ones that are supposed to be watching out, for the sex abuse that has already occurred in the past, and that has occurred right till 6 months ago with the Louisville Police Department, and they won't even respond to an email. And they're doing nothing. If you read their guidelines, we got their guidelines, and I saw better guidelines in the fire department for a 50-foot piece of hose than for children that are in an environment where they've been raped, and it's a joke. So something needs to be done now, and what can be done now is if you had to have a kid involved in any of this, you can pull them out of there until it's safe. And I think all we know now is that it's far from safe.
But the bottom line is we could advance our information so much further. I mean, we have an audience, if we're between the live show and YouTube, hopefully of 50 to 100 people, sending things out on Twitter. These stories, for what it's great that Larry Nass,
we do have a live tweeter tonight, Howie. We have a live tweeter. Kathy McCauley is live tweeting with us. Thank you, Kathy.
Oh, nice! Shout out.
But
shout out, Kathy.
I'm gonna, I'm just gonna use my own little world in the last few days. Since the Eagles have won the Super Bowl, I mean, there literally hasn't been any other news in Philadelphia other than the Eagles have won a Super Bowl. Now we're talking Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, now Thursday. we're talking 4 solid days of nothing but, every, minute detail of the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and the parade, and I'm sure it'll continue into tomorrow. With everything going on in the world, and people, I understand, like, people want to feel good, and it's one of those, rare occurrences, and it's great. But the passion that people have for a team winning the Super Bowl, and and what they will do and go out in the streets. I mean, if we have a real problem in this country.
Priorities.
Kathy said, "Is that you, Catherine?"
That was me.
We have to put this. We have to put this on ourselves, and I'm not talking about, like, bad people. I'm just talking about people that are they're just not thinking about it. But once again, when we're talking about, Indy Star, LA Times, online, I can never remember the name where this article was printed.
Well, that's what I'm here for, Howie. OutsideOnline.com. Outsideonline.com.
And like with this Larry Nassar thing, like, combining the two and say, oh, by the way, we may have an issue, a problem in U.S.A. swimming, and what else, and and the mainstream media, and we're talking about fake news. They don't do their job. They don't even have a job.
Well, actually, if you go and Google this again tonight when we get off the air, every major news organization is carrying this USA swimming story. So
are they?
That's new. Yeah. ABC, Fox, CBS. I mean, it's literally blowing up. I mean, and that's because of Larry Nassar, so thank you, Larry.
Right. But,
and that judge sticking it to him.
Yes. Yep.
And allowing all of the.
You said, though, but Catherine, once again, the Indy Star was the one, with very, limited resources compared to a CNN. They were the ones who, did this, in-depth expose on USA Gymnastics 2 years ago. Now, all these other media outlets, they just come in, after the fact, and it's real easy to put, it's easy to put a camera and report on what's going on in the courtroom. It's after the fact reporting. It's not investigative journalism. Like, none of the mainstream media outlets had done have brought anything new to the table. They just report on, like, what they see.
Yeah. It's and I think this story was actually broke by a small paper in Seattle. I don't think it was
right.
NBC News out there, trying to beat the bushes.
Well, I'll just do a quick analogy that if there's a car crash, they're gonna, the local news will go out and they'll say, oh, there were 2 cars. They'll show the car crash and they'll basically say what happened, but they won't, they won't go back, and find out if the driver was doing anything before that, if he had any health issues, he was drinking before the fact, before the accident, or, they won't do any, there's no investigation whatsoever. But these smaller media outlets seem to be the ones that are doing it. And that's why we have to be on social media to take an Indy Star article and spread it, because unless you live in Indianapolis, who the hell's reading the Indianapolis Star? 2016. And even to this day,
I do now. So
I didn't see in any of the reporting on Nassar. Oh, by the way, almost 2 years ago, there was this fabulous, article. Some people, but we're talking about reaching critical mass.
Did the Spotlight team in Boston move to Indy? Maybe is that what happened?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but things are changing, and I don't think 6 months ago, had this story broke, you'd have every mainstream news covering it during the Olympics. The atmosphere has changed. The Nasser case has changed things.
Well, their backs are against the wall.
And that's great. They can't be caught out now just freezing out, stuff that they don't want to interfere with the ratings of the Winter Olympics.
Well,
and that's also people are turning them off.
I do think that it says something for the presence of people online and their protests and everything, because if they weren't making a big thing about it, if we didn't have as many people that are talking about Pizzagate and Pedogate and such, then we wouldn't have any of this.
Go.
And I mean, the people online on Facebook, Twitter.
Yes.
So, good job.
Yeah. Kathy said, we got a good judge. We need more judges. And both of them were good. Judge Aquilina was my favorite judge of all time. I've never heard anybody say from the bench that the FBI needs to, get off their ass and widen this investigation. I've never heard that said. And she really, embodied to me what a judge, should be like on the bench. And so
she's either really brave or really naive, because, I mean, honestly, that's a pretty major thing to say, and they don't take things like that lightly.
Well, they better stay.
Hillary's had people killed for less than that.
Yeah. Well, that old hag, she's on her last legs. But things are changing. I mean, they really are. And Trump is, he's made and let me go back to the Homeland Security thing. The directors of Obama's director of Homeland Security didn't have a task force that's out there, and this is a task force. They're doing this case, and they've become involved in this case. But apparently, this is a task force, and that's what it's there for child pornography, cases of child rape. I mean, they're on it. Obama's. We didn't hear of one. There wasn't one case that was prosecuted. There wasn't one executive order that concerned any of that. So, things are changing, and of course, it's not fast enough. But
so they said, forget FBI. FBI is not, because that's who they would use typically.
Yeah, and I think there's big changes going on at the FBI. I mean, they're Comey's gone, McCabe's gone. I'm sure that's probably one of the hardest institutions to, fundamentally change. But I think it's happening. And I think what's happening, and it's the same thing that's happening with the child rape victims coming forward, is that the good people in these organizations are seeing, people are starting to listen now. There's a different atmosphere. We have a different president. We have different priorities, and I think they're stepping up, and it's just going to continue and continue and continue. And I don't see it going the other way. I can't even envision anything that could happen to have us go back in the other direction where we just came from.
Well, people can get lazy. They can lay down. They can get tired. They can get burnt out.
I want to be. We only have a few minutes left. I just want to switch gears right now, and I just want to thank everybody that has contributed to Pedogate News, the hashtag Pedogate News. I mean, it's to me, it's blowing up in ways that I've never could have imagined. At Our Children 11, and hold on for 1 second. I want to get her name right. It's the real deal at Podobensky. I never know how to pronounce it. Podobensky. They were carrying the torch for Pedogate News for a very long time, and now so many other people have joined in, and it's like a real hashtag, and it's like the place to go if you have an article. It doesn't have to be sports related, but if you see something that we're talking arrests, convictions, and when you go down and you just scroll down this hashtag, you're just going to see what is going on in this country, on all different levels of
child sexual exploitation,
family abuse. It's just, I mean, the stories are horrific, but the arrests are coming, the convictions are coming. And
Kathy is keeper of the indictments. There are 13,605 sealed federal indictments. So.
Hey, Kathy has a rep on Twitter. Everybody knows that she's got the running number for that. So good on her.
That's my new hashtag. It's called Keeper of the Indictments, and that's Kathy's.
Perfect.
Kathy's
it's
hashtag.
Perfect.
So a shout out to Kathy and all these people, and V and that hashtag, Howie. That's another good idea that has went somewhere and is making a difference. And V has just been incredible.
Relentless.
Yep. And all of the people that we've been involved with, Missy, I'm catching up with her, and I got to catch up with Tim Hotham, and Trish Negron, and now we've got Albert Bashai shaking the bushes. There's Elizabeth and Jared Beck, this is a movement, and it's ongoing. It doesn't seem to be getting any smaller. Yeah, some days it feels like we don't get enough traction on what we're talking about or what we're tweeting about. But overall, it's a different world than it was even 6 months ago. So shout outs to all those people, all the survivors that have been.
And people, keep up the good work, but practice self-care, because really you need to. And I mean, it's comparable to running a marathon. I think you need to drink water, you need to rest, and you need to step away from the computer sometimes. Take a day off.
Walk slow, drink lots of water. That's good advice.
It's emotionally draining. Really, it is. Yeah. You don't realize it until you do take some time off, and then you're like, holy smokes, I didn't realize that my head was so...
Yeah, it's a dark place to live in every day. And if we don't take care of ourselves, nobody else is going to do it, and that's what use are you if you don't take care of it's not selfish to take care of number one, because you just you have to, especially dealing in this subject and just living in this world, for God's sake, not from day to day,
Well, it's easy to get burnout, especially, with the child sexual abuse and everything. And you cannot let yourself get burnout, because kids need you. We need every solitary person to speak up, speak out, look, keep your eye out.
All hands on deck.
I've caught people swimming around in the shallow end right with my kids. I was talking to one of my girlfriends. We were at the river, and I noticed this guy. He was like on all fours in the shallow end of the water, and all of a sudden I was talking to her, and I started screaming at that guy. I scared her to death. I said, "What are you doing with those kids?" And anyway, I made him get out of that water, and I made him leave. He was crying by the time he left because I threatened to call the police on him. He was in his underwear. And he said, well, what if I was in a Speedo? I said, but you're not in a Speedo, are you? I said, get in your car and get out of here now.
No, I don't think a Speedo would have given him any special privileges. I think he might have caught a beating at the beach that I go to.
Yeah.
Speedo, underwear, whatever it was, just, But, even, and I like the judge in the other, did you see the judge that went after, when the guy went after Nasser?
Oh, no, I didn't see what happened after that.
That was the other judge, and she was, really spoke everybody's, as the elephant in the room, that, that is a natural human emotion, is to want to kill.
Right.
This is a judge, on the bench, which I thought was very refreshing, and she goes, my goodness, that's all our. But yeah, we are a nation of laws, and we can't do that, and we can't lose our humanity just because we're dealing with monsters, and that's kind of the point you were making with the island and the what's going to happen to him when he goes in jail, and if you're going to rape Larry Nasser to prove to him what he did was right. Well, what does that make you? We have to, and that's part of that self-care thing, maintaining our humanity. If we've lost, if you become like, and I get it. It's okay to say it. It's okay to verbalize it, but we're not going to go out and murder these people. We're just not. As much as we'd like to. Because when we become like them, what are we trying to preserve? What society are we trying to, what are we teaching the children that are being born right now? So the music is sneaking up on us, but we're gonna dig into this, and it's my little pet project is I've tried to make contact with Rachel, who wrote that article, and I think she'll respond.
We may. We're going to have a very special guest.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Howie.
I was going to say we're going to have a very special guest, potentially next week, telling just an unbelievable story. If it doesn't happen next week, it'll probably be the week after. Just stay tuned for that. And it's been something, a few months in the making. And when we have this guest, everybody will want to tune in. It will just be an absolute fantastic show.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat for it. I can tell you.
Yeah, it's that intense. It's that intense.
Well.
Don't say too much. The music's coming. What's that?
I said, give them something, like a little bit about what it's about.
Well, it's ritualistic abuse, small town ritualistic abuse that reaches all levels of basically all encompassing. Small town.
Small town U.S.A.
Yep.
Yeah. Confirming our worst fears.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Howie. Thank you, Catherine.
Good night. Thank you. Good night.
See you Tuesday.
Tuesday it is.